All right, so today we're going to go over the eDiscovery features within Office 365. Just on the agenda for today, we're going to go through an overview of the eDiscovery capabilities in Office 365. We'll go through a demo of the Security and Compliance Center. We'll also do a demonstration of the advanced eDiscovery features within Office 365. And then at the end, we'll have some time for some Q&A. Some basic eDiscovery workflow. Obviously, there is a workflow of initially to preserve data that may be relevant to a matter. We identify the custodians that are involved in the matter. We search through that data. We perform some analysis on it. And finally, we export it for review. And as you'll notice throughout this workflow, through every step, we're reducing the amount of documents. And that's really the central theme, along with the tools within Office 365 and then some of the other add-on things that we'll show you. So the goal here is to export as little data as possible, especially if you are sending that data to an outside attorney. So let's talk a little bit about getting some data into Office 365. So you'll notice that on the left side of the slide here, there are some sources of data. We've got some data on premises, file shares, third-party data, and possibly third-party archives as well. There are a couple of different methods for getting this data into Office 365. The first is just doing it over the internet, and there are many methods, and Bluesource performs lots of migrations from many different sources to Office 365, and so we do that over the network. The other option is for drive shipping, and this is great if you have lots of data and there are bandwidth concerns, and what you can do is ship the data on encrypted hard drives to Microsoft, and it will be ingested into Office 365 for you. And as you can see, there are multiple targets depending on what kind of data we're talking about, whether it's OneDrive for Business, Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and then of course migrating data to Skype for Business as well. There are also third-party connectors, and this allows you to continually archive and store data in Office 365 from other communication platforms that you might be using. So for example, there are connectors that allow you to archive content from your corporate social media, such as Twitter, Facebook pages, Yammer within Microsoft, LinkedIn, and so on. So these communication posts and messages that you're sending through those platforms can be continually stored and archived in Office 365, thereby making them discoverable. The other thing as well, we have several messaging platforms on here, several examples, Yahoo Messenger, Google Talk, Jabber, and so on. Many communication platforms, messaging platforms can be continually stored in Office 365 as well, so that those communications can be discovered. There's also document collaboration and other tools like Dropbox and Salesforce, Bloomberg, etc. Those platforms can have their content archived as well. And then finally, there's the capability to do SMS and text messaging archiving from things like BlackBerry or Mobile Card. So again, those communications can be archived and made discoverable within Office 365. So just by way of example, we have Microsoft's FY16 eDiscovery profile here, and this is how they're doing eDiscovery within Microsoft itself. So in FY16, they preserved about 2.5 terabytes of data, 50 people, per case, 100 to 200 sources. And then they, through the eDiscovery tools that we're going to show you, narrow that down to about 644 gigs, 13 custodians, 26 to 52 sources, and then finally minimizing that down through culling and searching and keywords, date ranges, that kind of a thing. They're getting about a 96% cull on that, so they're ending up with about 24 gigs worth of data for an average case. When they move over to the advanced eDiscovery tools within Office 365, they're able to gain an additional 30% in deduplication savings and an additional 26% through email threading. So finally, when the data goes to review, They have a very small data set, especially compared to what was collected at the outset. And it's also in a format that can be used by their outside attorneys. And so this is their case profile for FY16. So without further ado, what we're going to do is pop over into the demo, and I will take you through all of the features in the Security and Compliance Center, as well as the Advanced eDiscovery. And then, of course, at the end, we'll do some question and answer. So I will switch over to that now. All right. So this is the Security and Compliance Center within Office 365. This is the hub for all things eDiscovery, along with some other things like threat management, data governance, and records classification. So there are quite a few things here in addition to eDiscovery, but we're going to focus in on the eDiscovery for now. You can get to this a number of different ways. It's available directly at protection.office.com. And also, if you have access to it, you'll see it in the tiles when you sign into portal.office.com or through any Office website. You'll be able to get to it directly from this menu here. So quite a few different ways to get to the Security and Compliance Center. Once you're here, you'll see a dashboard with everything that's going on in terms of security and compliance, and you'll see some shortcuts to go to search and investigation. Likewise, over on the left, there is a search and investigation section here. And when I click on that and expand it, you can see that we have a number of options related to eDiscovery. So the first thing we're going to do is check out the content search. Now, the content search allows you to very quickly search across all content in Office 365 for specific keywords, date ranges, custodians, types of content. And what this allows you to do is very quickly find data that you have in Office 365. Several use cases for this. We have folks that just want to run a quick search to determine how many documents or how many files or emails will come back to a particular search. This is really handy if you get a subpoena or want to do an internal investigation. And just quickly find out the size and scope of the corpus of documents you'd be dealing with if you were to actually run through a search. Some of our government customers are using this to determine scope of documents for FOIA requests. Also, we have a number of customers doing the content search just to negotiate more stringent or detailed keywords and date ranges when they get requests from outside counsel. So it's a very quick and easy tool to figure out how much data you're going to be working with. Now, the process for running a content search is pretty simple. You click on the little plus here, and it will open up a window whereby you can give the search a name. I'm just going to call this demo. And you get to choose the areas of Office 365 that you would like to search. So you can search everywhere, and you'll get 3 checkboxes here. So that's Exchange, SharePoint, and public folders. One of the things you'll notice about Office 365 or come to learn is that Exchange covers not only Exchange Online, your email, and of course everything else in your inbox, but it also covers Skype for Business. All of your conversation history is stored there. SharePoint covers a number of things as well. Obviously, SharePoint itself. It also covers OneDrive for Business. So all of the OneDrive for Business content is held in SharePoint. In addition to that, if you use Microsoft Teams or Modern Groups, the files for those teams and groups are stored in SharePoint. And then, of course, the email communications and mailboxes are stored in Exchange Online. So all of those workloads can be searched across these 2 areas here. The other thing you can do is select a custom location, and you can choose specific mailboxes to search. So when I choose those, I get a box here. I can type someone's name, such as Irvin. So I'll just type in his name and click Enter, and it will come back with that individual. And I'll just add them here and click OK. And I'll just repeat that for whatever mailboxes I want to search. Likewise, for SharePoint sites, we can, of course, choose to search across the entirety of SharePoint. But if I have a specific site that I'd like to search, I can simply put that into the URL here. So if we have just a mailbox in here, what I'll do is click Next. And this is where we are able to search across all of the content, put in keywords and date ranges and things like that. So it's a blank box initially. What we're going to do here is click on this Learn More link. And what this does is it takes you to a Microsoft TechNote page, and this shows you all of the possible keywords and filter options that you can put in that text box. So for example, you can search email properties such as attachment name or specifically the blind carbon copy field. You can even search categories in Office 365 that people may have set in Outlook. You can filter on from, and most of these follow the simple, property name and then a colon and then what you want to search. So for example, the from, you just type from, colon, and then the email address. Or you can do a domain name as well. So if you're looking for all emails from a particular domain name, you can type in that, and it will bring all of those back. So this is a handy article to keep bookmarked. And then, of course, you can also just put in regular keywords. So I can type in the word California, for example, and you can also do things like proximity searching. So I can do California and then near, and then in parentheses, I'll put the number 5 for 5 words and close the parentheses, and then maybe the word lobbying. And what that'll do is it'll give me all the results where there's the word California near 5 words of the word lobbying. So that's how you do proximity searching in Office 365. So you can also add conditions down here. These have the more commonly used fields such as date range, size, sender, subject or title. And then there are some specific ones for mail and specific ones for documents in SharePoint or OneDrive for Business. So if you want to put in, for example, the sender, you can put in equals or doesn't equal or contains any of the words here, and you can put in your keywords in that box. So if this is all that I want to search, I just click the search button here, and it will close that out, and you'll see the progress here on the right. So you'll get a list of items that come back, their size, how many mailboxes it came across, how many SharePoint sites it came across, and same for public folders as well. So this actually came back with 0 results. However, you'll notice that even though I searched across one person, 2 mailboxes came back. So one of the things to note is that when you run a search against a mailbox in Office 365, it will automatically include the archive in addition to the regular mailbox. So most folks in Office 365 will have their regular mailbox and they'll have their archive, and this searches both automatically for you. The other thing to note about the content search is that currently it is set up so that anyone who has access to run a content search can see all of the searches that have been run. So this is the one that I created. I'm signed in as Megan here. I created this search, and anyone else that can create a content search can come in here and see this search. So for that reason, if you want some more security and you want to issue holds and do exports and move to the advanced eDiscovery, we actually do that within an actual eDiscovery case. So what we're going to do is pop over to the eDiscovery case, and we'll click on eDiscovery here. And you'll notice that I have a list of cases here. I can create new ones. I can search through cases. I can open or close a case. And if I click on one of these cases, you'll notice that I see some details about the case. So we have one called Enron Lobbying here. And if I click on the case, you can see that there are some details about it, such as who's got access to the case. So one of the things you can do when you create a case, you obviously have access to the case yourself, but you can also give access to other individuals as well. And the permission structure in Office 365 allows you to set it up so that people can create cases, but they can't see any of the cases that other people create unless they've been specifically added. And so that's a nice feature to have. you can explicitly add people to your case so that they can work on them. If they don't have access to the case, they don't even see them within this interface here. The other thing I can do, of course, is add some descriptive notes, maybe a docket number, court jurisdiction, things like that. I can put anything I'd like to in the notes here. And then, of course, the status of this case is currently active. If it's been resolved and I can close it, I'll click the Close Case button. Alternatively, if I want to delete it, I can do that as well. All right, so we'll click Close. And what I can do to actually go into this case is click on Open. And this takes me to the case itself. And again, I can see some details and description about the case. And I have three main options up here, and then this fourth, which we'll talk about in a bit. So generally in the workflow, what you'll want to do when you open up a case is issue a hold. And this allows you to preserve content in Office 365 until the matter has been resolved and closed. And this overrides any kind of expiry that you may have set up, any kind of document disposition that you may have set up within Office 365. So if you have content set up to expire after 2 years, this overrides any of that, any of those policies. So we have a hold issued here. When I create a new hold, what you'll see is that the process for creating a hold is very similar to creating a search. So I'll call this demo hold. And again, you'll put mailboxes in Exchange Online on hold, and you'll do the same for SharePoint Online here. So when you click plus, you get the same ability to select the mailboxes that you'd like. And when you click next, you have the same filtering and keyword options that you saw before. So you can actually do document or email or message level holds within Office 365. So you don't have to put an entire person's mailbox on hold or an entire SharePoint site. You can put items on hold that match a certain date range. For example, we can do add condition, date range, if it's between a few dates. So let's say between June 1st of this year and today. So that'll put anything on hold that was in that date range. And that way we're allowing things to be deleted that are not relevant to the case, and we're keeping what's necessary for the scope of the case. However, if you do want to put the person's mailbox on hold in its entirety, you can simply leave this blank and click Finish. And of course, it will go and actually place that mailbox on hold. So what I can do is click Finish. This will close. And then what you'll see is you'll see an updated status. It'll say turning on. And it's going to go out and search for everything in that mailbox. So we can see the status here. And it says search in progress. And it says turning on. So it's going to go out and turn on a hold on everything in that mailbox. The next thing you'll want to do is actually create a search. This allows you to go out and actually find the data and export it or move it to the advanced eDiscovery for further analysis. Now I've already run a search here, so you can see what it looks like when it's done. And on the right, you'll see how many documents came back and their size across how many mailboxes, sites, and public folders. And you can see when it was run. And what I can also do is edit this search. And I can change the parameters of the query. If I need to further refine it or change my keywords, I can do that easily. The other thing as well is now that we're in a search within an eDiscovery case, we can show the keyword list. And what this is going to do is actually turn that large text box into a line-by-line keyword search. And we had a very simple search, just the word California here. But what I can do is put a keyword on any of these subsequent lines. So I can do California, I can do lobbying near pipeline, for example. You'll notice I left off the number. It defaults to 8 words, so it'll be lobbying within 8 words of the word pipeline. And what this is going to do is the search will put an or in between each of these keywords. So it'll be California or lobbying near pipeline or the word lobbying or anything else that I put here. what that's going to do is allow me to run a statistical analysis on each of these keywords separately. So I can put in as many as I need here, and when I run the search, it will actually tell me how many results came back for each of these specific keywords. So that way I can do some QA on my searches. I can find out if I put keywords in there that came back with 0 results individually for that keyword, and then I can either remove that or modify it if I think something needs to come back. So I can get some statistical analysis here on these keywords. You get the same conditions that you had before, such as date range or participants or author, title, sender, recipient, any keywords and conditions you want. It's consistent across all of the workflow items that we've seen so far. So what I will do is show you that statistical analysis. You can do a search statistics up here, so this button here. And what that will do is open up your individual search, and you'll get a summary. So this came back with 8,515 items. And when I look at the queries, you'll see the actual line-by-line query here. Now, we just had one with the word California, but each individual line of that query would show up here, and you'll have the number of locations with hits and the number of documents for that query. The top location section here allows you to find your heavy hitters. Now, I searched across one person's mailbox, but if I were to search across the entirety of Exchange Online, what I can do is find out the locations that had the most documents. So this mailbox had 8,515, and then I could have others down here that I had, and it would be sorted descending by the number of documents or results that came back. So I can see who my heavy hitters are, who have who has the most documents related to this particular search. And both the top locations as well as the queries here, you can download in CSV format and do some further analysis within Excel or any kind of analysis application that you might be using. We'll close that. The next thing you might want to do is export this data. And so you can click here and create an export. Now, a couple of things you can do. You can export the results themselves, or you can export a report. And the report will download all of the statistical information. It'll have all the locations, the number of documents, and all the metadata about those documents, but the items themselves will not be included. The actual results themselves, of course, will download all of that metadata, and then, of course, the files themselves. We'll hop over to export, and we'll talk about what's included here. So when you create an export, you have a number of options. You can include all of the items, including things that haven't been indexed or anything that's encrypted. And then, of course, you can choose the file type or format in which you want to download. So you have one PST file for each mailbox. You can have a PST file that has all the messages organized by custodian. You can have a PST file that has all of the messages collapsed down into a single folder. And then, of course, you can do individual messages as well. And that will just give you individual files for each document or message that was returned in the export. When you click Start, the export will continue to prepare those results for you. And when it's done, you'll see it says 100% completed. And you can download the link here. What will happen is, when you click Download, it'll give you a summary of the results here, and it will give you a shared access secret, or SAS. Essentially what this is a complex password and key that allows you to download these documents. And there's a handy link to copy that to the clipboard. And then when you click Download Results, what it's going to do is download this and open this little export tool. And you'll paste the key in there. And then you'll browse to the location where you want to download the export. When you click Start, it will actually go and download that. I've already done that. And this is what you'll get. So you have a folder, and you can see the folder name is the same name as the export itself. So I'll double click that, and there is a folder here, that's a date stamp, and then these are the results. So you have a number of files. There's an export summary, which is an Excel CSV file. You'll have an XML, which is a manifest. You'll have the results, which includes all of the metadata about all the results. That's a CSV file. Again, you can open that in Excel. And you have a trace log as well. Then in this folder, you'll have a folder for each type of result. So we only exported email, so we have one for Exchange. And we chose the 1 PST per mailbox option. And so we have a single PST for our single mailbox here. And then, of course, you can open that in Outlook or import it into a review tool that you're using for further analysis. Take a look at what that results Excel file looks like. And it looks quite a bit, like a mess here, but of course, all of the features in Excel will allow you to filter and sort through this. But this has all of the metadata. So for example, we have item IDs, we have the path to the item, we have the subject or title. So you can very quickly search through this just to find out what was included in terms of the export. So again, all of the metadata here is available in the CSV file. The same information is included in the manifest. The export summary gives you all the information about the export job itself, such as who performed it, when, number of items, anything that was skipped or unindexed, and when it was completed. Okay, so that covers the Security and Compliance Center. So we went through placing data on hold, performing searches and exports, and what the export files include. Now, a couple of things I want to go over before we move on. In the Security and Compliance Center, under Search and Investigation, there is an audit log search. So everything I just did was logged to this audit log. Now, there are a number of things that are logged here that have nothing to do with eDiscovery, and you can see all of those items here, such as file and page activities, setting permissions on SharePoint sites, creating sites, deleting sites, and so on. However, there is a section for eDiscovery, and you can see here under eDiscovery activities, there are a number of different activities that are included here that are logged. And I can search through all of them just by clicking on eDiscovery activities, but you can see created a hold within an eDiscovery case, deleted a search, performed a search, changed all of the options here. And then, of course, there are PowerShell commandlets as well. And if I want to take a look at all of that activity, we can do that as well. So I'll click on eDiscovery activities, and you can see that there are 34 distinct actions that are logged. And then, of course, I can filter by date, I can filter by user, and then I can run a search. And I can find out exactly what was done and by whom for eDiscovery activity within Office 365. So you can see here, everything that I've done today is logged. I'm logged in as Megan Bowen, so you can see Megan Bowen created or changed a hold in the eDiscovery case, and you can click on this item and get more information. And there's quite a bit of detail here as far as what was done and when. So if you're interested in finding out who has done what within eDiscovery in Office 365, all of that activity is logged. I can, of course, export this if I need to as well. The other thing I can do is actually save this search, and I can have it as an alert. So for example, if I want to be alerted to whenever someone deletes a case or runs a search or does any kind of eDiscovery activity that I want to know about, I can set this up as an alert, and I can receive an email notification when that happens. So we'll head back to our eDiscovery case. Now, we've gone through putting data on hold, running searches, exporting that data. What if we want to do some further analysis and reduce the data set even further? So there's an advanced eDiscovery option here. And basically what will happen is you'll create your search, and then you'll prepare that search for advanced eDiscovery. What that's going to do is package it up and move it over to this interface here. This allows you to run further analysis on the data and export it in a EDRM standard load file, which can be used by multiple review applications. So there are two basic workflows of the advanced eDiscovery. The first one deals with analysis and theming and message threading and putting it into a load file. The other deals more with predictive coding to allow you to provide relevancy information for the documents in your case. So we'll go over both of those now. If I go to case here, the express analysis is the first workflow option that I just mentioned. What this will do is it will analyze your documents, and you can go through a setup process here where you can specify the number of themes that you want to identify. Themes are just commonalities between documents. Excuse me, they could be project names, they could be code words, they could be customer names, and it identifies all of that information and allows you to have that information in a load file. The other thing it will do is identify duplicates and near duplicates, and you can set a threshold for similarity on documents, and it will also do email threading. And what that will do is it will combine all of that information into a load file, and then of course it will allow you to download that load file along with the files themselves, of course. And we'll show you what that load file looks like. The other workflow deals with relevance, and relevance is what we're using to identify actual documents that are relevant to our case, and we're using a predictive coding workflow to do that. So when we get data into the advanced eDiscovery, what we do is an initial assessment, and that presents you a random set of documents, and you simply determine whether those documents are relevant or irrelevant to your case. And again, this is an initial random sample. Based on that information, it's going to pick 40 documents at a time to present to you. And again, you'll determine if that document is relevant or not relevant. What it's going to do is continuously learn from your responses on that, and it's going to intelligently choose another set of 40 documents for you to look at. And when it has enough information and you have tagged documents consistently enough, it will go through and actually provide a relevancy model to the rest of the corpus of documents. And we'll show you what that looks like. So right now we're on that training step here. And when I click training, here is the email, in this case an email that it's presenting, and you have the content of the email itself. And then you have some buttons here on the left, R for relevant and R for not relevant. And then if I need to, I can skip this document for now. A couple questions you might have: why 40? Well, 40 is basically the smallest set of documents that the system can provide to you. And the reason that we do that is because we want to actually have you review the fewest amount of documents possible. And by doing 40, we're able to actually get the review and relevancy scores quickly enough so that you don't actually have to review more documents than are absolutely necessary. And then as far as this progress right now, we fast forwarded a little bit, and I'm on the 5th training set. So I'm on the 5th set of 40, and I'm looking at the 39th document. So we don't have to go through the entire process right now, but I'll show you what this looks like here. So I'm on document number 39, so basically the second to last document in this set. And I'm looking at this document, and one of the things I can do in my setup is actually have some of these keywords being highlighted. So for example, if I'm looking for the word lobbying, or in this case natural gas, what I can do is actually have those words in different colors so that they pop out a little bit more. The other thing is that these tagging buttons have keyboard shortcuts, so I can actually go through this fairly quickly just by using the X and the Z keys on my keyboard. This one is in fact relevant to the case, so I'm going to click on R. Now, the second one is a poem, and it had the word California in it, which is what we were searching for. However, it is not relevant to the case. So I'm going to click on NR for not relevant. Now, this is the last document in this set. So once I review this, the calculate button will light up. And I'll click that, and we'll go back to the tracking page, and you'll see that the progress bar is a little bit more to the right here. And I've reviewed 5 sets of 40 documents, and so I need to continue doing this until the progress bar reaches all the way to the right. So we'll go back. Now I fast forwarded a little bit more in time. This is now the 32nd set of documents, 40 documents that I'm looking at. And again, I'm on document number 39. This one that I'm looking at is relevant to my case. And then this one is just a list of addresses, so it's not relevant to the case. So I'll click NR. When I click calculate, I'm brought back to the tracking page, and now the system has enough information that it can start building a relevancy model against the rest of the documents. So I'll click on batch calculation. And once that's complete, I know that the system has developed a relevancy model for me. The next stage of the workflow is to go to the decision or decide module. What this is going to do is display my corpus of documents in terms of relevancy score, and it will allow me to determine what amount of documents I actually want to export and review. So there's a lot here. So what I'm going to do is start over on the right, and we'll go over what these 4 numbers here are. All the way on the right, we have a total cost, and we have a next relevant cost. So these are both dollar figures. Now, the numbers, the costs are actually being based on $1 per document, and our capability is 100 documents that we can review per hour. So those are numbers that you can put in. It just depends on what your staff is capable of, or what your outside eDiscovery vendor is capable of, and what they're charging you for document review. So for demonstration purposes, we put in $1 per file and 100 documents an hour for review. You can change those numbers as you need. Now, the other 2 numbers here, the review and the recall. The review is the percentage of the corpus of documents that I'm going to be putting eyes on. And the recall percentage is the likelihood and the percentage of those documents that are likely to be relevant. So these numbers will change as I move the slider here on the left. So as I move the slider to the right, you can see those numbers increasing. Now, you can see kind of at 25% here, we start to plateau a little bit. It slightly increases, and then it really flatlines. Now, what this is allowing you to do is see the amount of documents that you would review, the percentage of those documents that are likely to be relevant, and the cost for reviewing those documents. Now, that information allows you to do a number of things. One, it allows you to figure out how many of your documents are actually likely to be relevant, how rich your data set is in terms of relevancy. But it also allows you to determine your costs. And depending on the size and scope and value of the case, you may have a number that you don't want to exceed in terms of review. So for example, if your case is worth $75,000 and I want to review 25% of my documents, it's going to cost me almost $170,000 for that. So if that's the case, what I may want to do is move this slider to the left a little bit to say, $61,000. And I can review just this set of documents. So I can filter my export out of this tool based on this graph here. Now, I don't have to filter my export. The beauty of this is that all of these relevant scores are included in the load file. So you have a couple of options you can do. One, you can export everything and send it to your outside attorneys, and they can start reviewing the stuff that is likely to be most relevant. Or I can filter the export just on this, initial 9 or 10%, and then I might find what I need in that initial 9 or 10% to either settle or defend the case. And you've spent, the minimal amount of money possible on review. The other thing is if I filter my export based on this information, I'm sending the least amount of data outside my organization as possible, which is always good from a data security perspective. The other thing it will do is it will save funds in terms of your hosting fees as well as your review fees from your outside attorneys. So if you send them 100 gigs versus 1 terabyte, you're going to be saving quite a bit of money just on their hosting fees for that. And then, of course, if they only have to review 10% of that data, you're saving quite a bit of money there as well. So again, you can play with the slider and you can figure out what your cutoff score is, and you can see what your costs are. There are some numbers down below as well in terms of the error margin and, of course, what the settings were for review cost per file. As I mentioned, it's $1. That next relevant cost basically means I'm going to have to spend, at this point, $105 in between each relevant document. So at 100 documents an hour and $1 per file, I would have to spend about an hour of review before I found the next relevant document. That's what that cost is representing. So once you have this information and you've set your cutoff score here, you can go over to export, and that allows you to actually choose the export. What I'll do is I'll go into the advanced eDiscovery here on the export section. I'll show you what that looks like. One of the benefits here is that you don't have to download it to your local workstation. So the option here by default is to download it to your local workstation. However, you can choose to download it to an Azure Blob location. And you can give it a container URL and a token, which is a password. And what that allows you to do is actually send that URL and password to your outside attorneys or whoever needs to download this information. And that way you're not downloading it to your workstation and have to transfer it over secure FTP or put it on an encrypted hard drive and mail it. You can actually send them the URL and they're able to pick that data up where it sits. The other thing is that there are several review platforms that can actually process and present the data for review exactly where it sits in that Azure Blob. The benefit there is that if you were to cease relationship with that outside attorney, you could simply change the SAS token and they'd have no longer access to your data. So that's one of the advantages of using the Azure Blob. I've elected to download it to my local workstation, and I'll show you what that export looks like and some of the things that we can do with the relevancy information and with the load file. The other options you have, I mentioned that you don't have to filter based on the cutoff score of that graph, but you can certainly do that. You can check that box. And then you have the metadata information, and there are two kind of sets of metadata that you can include in the load file. There is a TechNote article that lists out every single field in both of these templates, so you can take a look at that and decide which ones you want to export. And then you create the export session, and when it's done, it will prompt you to download the results just like we saw before. Now, when you download the results, this is what you get. So there are 3 files, or actually 2. I've created this third one here. There are 2 files. The load file, which is all of the metadata information. We'll take a look at that. And then there's a simple export list. And then there are 2 folders, and these are the actual files themselves. The first one is the extracted text file. So when you process through advanced eDiscovery, it will extract all of the text out of those files and place them in text files here. And so it's very simple. This is what it looks like. So this is just text. The other folder contains the native files themselves. So you can see we have an actual EML, and then we have one that's been converted to HTML. So you have a number of options as far as how you want to view the data, whether it's original format or converted it to HTML, or again, just the extracted text. The load file is really what's interesting. So we're going to open that, and it's a CSV file. and this is an EDRM standard. And again, it's a lot of information in here, but this will give you all of the details about everything that was exported. And many tools, including Clearwell, Relativity, Recomind, Concordance, they all will take these load files and allow you to present the data for review without having to go through additional processing. So there are a number of fields here, such as file IDs and what type of document it is, the themes, the relevancy score information, which is important. If you do the express analysis, all of this information is here except for the relevancy score. The relevancy score is only based on the predictive coding that we went through. So this is quite a bit of information, like I said. Just to show you what you can do with that, I created a modified load file, and I'm using simple Excel slicers to do some really quick and dirty analysis on this load file. One of the things you can do is format the load file as a table, which I've done. And then, of course, all of the filtering options are here, but the slicers are really nice. For example, we can filter based on custodian. I only have one custodian here, so that's why this only has one on it. There are email participants. There's sender domain, which is a popular one. So I can filter on singular, for example. I click on that, and it filters down my results. One of the fields that is included in the load file is the actual path to the file itself. And I can make that clickable through Excel and actually click on it, and it will open up the native file or the text file, whichever one I want to click on, and I can review that document. So I can do some real basic, quick and dirty review just by using the slicer feature in Excel. So that concludes the demonstration portion. So I will be happy to take some Q&A at this point. I believe we have some in the chat already. So I will review those. Okay, what Office 365 icon in left-hand drop-down panel corresponds to this view? So we go to the Security and Compliance Center. The Search and Investigation section is where you want to be, and you can do the content search for just that basic search functionality that we were looking at, and then the eDiscovery link is there as well. If you were to go to just portal.office.com and you were just to sign into the regular one here, the tile for the Security and Compliance Center will get you to that page. And then from there you can do search and investigation. Is this view typically limited to IT admins only? So that's a good question. The traditional roles for doing eDiscovery, especially with respect to email, has been an IT function. The general feeling on most most eDiscovery tools nowadays is that we want to empower paralegals, attorneys, anyone in the legal department actually doing the eDiscovery. We want to empower them to do that instead of IT. The benefit there, obviously, there's less information that you have to share with IT, right? Ideally, IT would not have any idea about whatever litigation is going on or whatever legal matters are going on. The other thing, too, is that they just might be too busy. Having worked in the messaging administration field in the past, I did have to perform eDiscovery, and it was time-consuming and not part of my daily administrative tasks. So if that task was relegated to the legal department, if they were able to do it themselves, that was a much better proposition for me. So in our experience, a lot of IT departments have actually been the one to reach out and want to provide these tools for legal because they want to be outside of that business. Okay. For K1, now F1 licensing, how do you export search? So everything I've been showing you is in the E3 and E5 SKUs for Office 365. So the Security and Compliance Center, everything within the search and investigation, the eDiscovery, the content search, all of that is the E3. Everything in the advanced eDiscovery here which was the predictive coding and the express analysis and relevancy, that is included in E5. What workloads are discoverable in Office 365? So pretty much everything except Yammer directly, which you can get through third-party tools like Actiance. So Exchange Online, which covers everything in the mailbox, and that's everything in the mailbox. Sent items, stuff in the drafts folder, stuff in the deleted folder, inbox, archive, and then of course there is Skype for Business Online. Those conversations are discoverable. Microsoft Teams, SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business Online. Those are all discoverable. Let's see. Does Office 365 have a journal archive? No, it doesn't. Actually, there are no journal mailboxes or journaling within Office 365. It can send a journal stream to third-party archives. So Bluesource offers a service called EV247, which provides Veritas Enterprise Vault along with Discovery Accelerator and the Discovery platform in the Azure data center. And it can receive a journal stream from Office 365. So you can continue to journal to a third-party archive like that. However, it doesn't have a journal archive itself. Does this view come with Office 365 or is this an add-on? It's included in the E3 and the E5 licensing. As I said, there are a number of other features within the Security and Compliance Center, such as advanced threat protection, data governance, and reporting. Based on your SKUs, it's available, in your licensing. Now, a lot of these features are available either within E5 or as a la carte add-on. For example, the advanced eDiscovery can be purchased as a la carte add-on to your E3 plan. Does all of this functionality you are showing come with Office 365? Yes, if you have E3, again, it covers the Security and Compliance Center and searches. If you have E5, it covers the advanced eDiscovery, and you can also purchase advanced eDiscovery as an add-on. How do the eDiscovery tools handle encrypted files? Good question. So anything that's encrypted using Office 365's RMS can be decrypted. So again, if you're using RMS, you can, everything is indexable. And then when you do an export, those items are automatically decrypted on export. So you don't have to do that after you export and download them. Same thing for advanced eDiscovery. Can the eDiscovery tools search attachments within attachments? Yes. In fact, they will go, I believe, 30 levels deep. So there are a number of things that are indexed, and attachments are indexed. So the content of attachments, including Excel documents, and the just recently the numbers within Excel documents are actually searchable as well. Can any of the eDiscovery tools be automated? Yes. Actually, Bluesource provides a number of tools that allow you to automate the capabilities within Office 365. One of the things that we've done for customers is automate the process of creating a case, launching a search, and downloading that search directly to the workstation, completely automated in a script. Don't have to log into the portal at all. No clicking necessary. That process is completely automated. So we had a customer who wanted to create a search or run a script, provide it with a list of custodians that they wanted searched, create the search, launch it, download the results directly to PST to a local workstation. And we've done that. So yes, quite a lot of this can be automated, and we can certainly help you do that. Can you buy an add-on eDiscovery for a K1 or F1 license? Not familiar with the K or F series of SKUs, but I know that the advanced eDiscovery is available as an add-on. So I would think that you'd be able to, but I would need to check on that specific one. Can I give access to these tools to outside counsel? Yes, absolutely. So the great thing here is that all of these tools are web-based, and the other great thing is that you can provide usernames and passwords for your outside attorneys or anyone that you need to have come in and perform eDiscovery without providing them a license. So you can provide login credentials for them to log into the Security and Compliance Center, give them access to very specific cases. They can perform specific functions within those cases, and that's true for both here in the Security and Compliance Center as well as in the Office 365. And that's really handy as well because you can control exactly what it is that they do, and you can keep the data in-house in your Office 365 tenant for as long as possible. Is the pull-down icon called Security and Compliance? I don't see it in my app folder online. That's probably because you don't have access to it. So in order to see the Security and Compliance Center, you do need to be given permissions. There are several groups that are available out of the box. So the Compliance Administrator and the eDiscovery Administrator, these are the default groups here. So you'll need to be added to the eDiscovery Manager group. If you're kind of in charge of all cases, you might be an eDiscovery Administrator. If you're just working on specific cases or need to create your own without seeing anybody else's, you can be an eDiscovery Manager. So you'll need to be added into that group. You can also create custom groups that allow you to have specific features. So if you have a paralegal who you want to just issue holds, you can create a group that only has the hold as an assigned role. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour, so I think we're going to wrap it up. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to Jen, and we will get those answered for you. So Jen, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Austin. And thank you for everyone who attended today and for all of your great questions. If you'd like a copy of the webinar recording, let me know and I'll get those over to you. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. You should all have my contact info, but if not, my email is jennifer.coleman@bluesource.net. And thanks again, everybody, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.